One classic that I think has a critic score on Rotten Tomatoes it's just too low would be Forrest Gump, done by the great director Robert Zemeckis. This is the guy who did Back to the Future trilogy, classic sci-fi time travel, Who Framed Roger Rabbit, classic fantasy film that succeeds in blending animation and live action, and then Forrest Gump, classic feel-good drama. And I was very surprised when I looked up Forrest Gump and saw it only has a 71% on Rotten Tomatoes, similar to Mrs. Doubtfire that I talked about in a previous video that only has a 70% on Rotten Tomatoes. It's like, while 70% is not a bad score, it's a good score, it's not fantastic. It's below 75%, and when we're talking about a classic like Forrest Gump, I think 71% is just too low. That movie should at least be at 80% easily, because it has so many things to offer. I mean, you have a great performance from Tom Hanks, well told story. I think the movie's well written. I like that it's an uplifting, heartwarming story that makes you feel good. I like the way the movie's framed, where this guy Forrest Gump is telling his story on a bench to anyone. He's just telling his story on the bench, people sitting down next to him listening to the story. I think the movie looks good. I mean, the visuals aren't super flashy, they don't immediately pop, but they get the job done. I think the music here is really good. So I don't understand what the problems are for this movie. Like, why does it only have a 71%? Why isn't it at 80%? Because it's derivative? I don't know. The movie doesn't seem derivative to me, and it's too sentimental. I don't agree with that at all. The movie could be better if it was less nostalgic, less sentimental, less wholesome. If it was more cynical. I don't get that at all. What's the problem with the movie being sweet and wholesome? That's something I've noticed on looking up some of these movies. It's like critics have a problem with movies not being cynical. They have a problem with a movie that just makes you feel good, that's uplifting, inspirational, sweet, wholesome, anything along those lines. I don't get how that's a bad thing. And so I think that we have here another example of a classic that has a lower Rotten Tomatoes score than it should have. Obviously, there are worse cases out there than Forrest Gump. Home Alone, Hook especially, but I still say 71% is just too low for such a famous movie like Forrest Gump.